Hola a todos, bienvenidos. Bueno, ahorita voy a pasarme a inglés para que nos pueda entender nuestra invitada. Thanks everyone for coming and joining us. And of course, thank you, Lucy, for joining us from the other side of the world. And we're really excited about having you as our guest. And I'm going to make a quick introduction. Lucy has been a very successful freelance, has been able to manage a successful freelance career and also as an art director. And has been working on more than a dozen games, over 10 years experience in the game industry. And of course, pushing for more women working in the industry. So I don't want to spoil it anymore. So thank you so much, Lucy, for joining us and sharing your experience with us. We're really happy to have you. And I'll go behind the scenes and then I'll let you hear. But I'm going to be here. So if you have any questions, just let me know. And without further ado, please, everyone, welcome Lucy and thank you. And let's start it. Yay.
Clapping for myself. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction and for having me. I will just a heads up, I will probably not be looking at the chat during this, but at the end, I will make sure to leave enough time. The only thing, if I am going very fast, do say, or if you need me to slow down, or if at any point I accidentally mute myself. But yeah, welcome to my talk. Thank you for having me. Let me share my screen. Can people see? Oh no, and I can't see the chat. That's not helpful.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. Great. So yeah, it's again, thank you for having me. It's nice to know that a pandemic can't stop events like these from happening, and you still get to hear from great speakers that I've seen. There are others like there's some great people, like a great lineup. My name is Kyriakidou. People call me Lucy. And I'm here to talk to you about my career and how I got to where I am today, hoping that you can learn from my mistakes like I did and kind of have an easy career path and hear about what it's like to kind of do what I do for a living. So get ready to see some old art. So let's keep it between us. I would also like you to leave my talk with an understanding of how to be a more inclusive game dev and how you can work, how your work can be more diverse and speak to players, whether you're a character designer or not. I have a lot of stuff to go through and I definitely want to end with like a nice chat between us. So I'll crack on. First, the usual about me section. I'm a freelance 2D games artist, like I was introduced, specializing in character design, and I'm an art director on an unannounced project. I'm also very involved with initiatives to promote diversity in the industry, like my role as a Women Making Games Northeast admin, which is a local community in the northeast of England where I'm based. And I'm also a STEM ambassador. I also have a Women in Games Ambassador Award, which I'm proud of. And earlier this year, won the Art and Animation Game Dev Heroes Award. I mean, I'm proud of both of them. There you go. I've been in the industry for over a decade now, I think 10 and a half years. And I've always been self-employed, but I've not always been a character designer. I've been lucky enough to try out a few different roles throughout my career. And like I said, I'm now working as an art director, but I thought it would be good to tell you how one may get here. And not only if you want to be an art director, but I think we hear about success so much and we hear about lucky success and accidental, like overnight success. But not enough about the work that is required for someone to do well in this field, or at least for most of us who are not as lucky. So how I started, I always loved to draw, and I knew I wanted to do that. Like I wanted to turn my hobby into my career, because I always felt, and I still do, that that is the best way to kind of be a happy person in your life, considering, you know, like you'll wake up and one day and realize you'll be doing this for the rest of your life. You'll be working for the rest of your life as an adult. So pick something that makes you happy. So I was looking into illustration. Like I said, I drew. I was trying to build my portfolio. I was still going to school, so I didn't know that much. And I got some advice to get into animation instead, because it would open more doors professionally. So I applied to some universities in England, and I got into Teesside Uni, where I started my BA in computer animation. Well, during that, I kind of discovered the world of game development. There were other courses like in games, and there were also like a local community of developers. And honestly, I didn't know that people made games. Well, I knew people made games, but you know, it never occurred to me back then. It was not something that was like very out in the open, and I guess games were not part of like a popular culture. So, you know, it was very eye-opening, and games have been a huge part of my life since as long as I can remember. So I switched my goals to go into like into games. I still did my computer animation degree, but I knew I wanted to do animation in games. During uni, I also found out that working on my own, or like on projects by myself, was much more enjoyable for me. And doing a lot of different things, long-term projects was not something that I enjoyed. So I knew I wanted to be a freelance artist. I spoke to my lecturers, and they thought it was a really bad idea. They thought I needed to get a job, get a normal job, a real job first, at a studio, and then try and get into freelance. But I didn't listen. 2 weeks after uni, I got an opportunity to, like, I was ready to listen, but two weeks after uni at university, I got the opportunity like to work on a freelance project. So I was like, this is a sign, I'm doing this. You know, I'm going like all the way straight in. I mean, in hindsight, that was a very risky idea, but back then I didn't care. And I don't think I would do it any differently now. I would still do it, I think. So yeah, my first project with that freelance opportunity was with a company, a very small company. It was like a single dev, called Wonky Woo Games, if I remember correctly. It was like their first game as well. It was unpaid. We had a good relationship, and it was like my first game experience, like working with, you know, developers with experience in the industry. But it was not paying bills. It was like one of those, like, you know, like get profit from the game kind of deals. There was also I did some storyboard work for for the other game that I mentioned. I did basically all the art and animation in the game. I mean, it wasn't very complicated, but my skills, to be honest, I mean, you can see, they're not up to where they are now, should I say. But yeah, and the other thing, I got some storyboard work. Got it through an expo thing that my uni did. You know, like employers would go around and look at students' projects. We had a good relationship. I can't say I got much out of it. I didn't learn much. So I learned to be careful when accepting things for experience, and profit share. And a friend of mine from uni, though, worked with the same people, like on the same project. He's now in Riot Games. It was great, like just getting to work with him after uni a little. I don't know, maybe we'll work together in the future. My first invoice, so the first time I got a paid project, it was a short, an animated short called Man in a Cat. Very strange, if you ever watch it. The hours were long, and I can't say I really enjoyed doing it. At that point, I kind of realized that the animation industry was definitely not for me. The kind of animations I enjoyed were more like, you know, short, like, you know, like a run here and there, like a dash, whatever, like just nice short bursts of creativity. So surprisingly, I continued working with the unpaid project clients. At the time, I was developing my skills, but I was struggling financially, obviously. And I had to take a door-to-door job. Everyone in the industry had a story like this, or at least everyone around my kind of experience, like what is it, like, I don't want to say age, but like yeah, who's been in the industry for a while has a story like this. I like to think that things have changed now, especially with paid QA roles that require barely any experience and allow graduates to get a taste of the industry early on. Not that QA isn't like a serious skilled career path. It is. It's not just a way into the industry, but it does provide that for some people as well. But it is also why I go around, why I do talks to students. I don't want you to kind of go through what I did and think this is what you need to do to get in, you know, to get to work in games. So look for projects that do value you. Yeah. I started working on small things here and there, things like people per hour, websites like that. I mean, they're okay, but maybe for like short-term projects, and it has like inexperienced freelancers, but also inexperienced project managers, and the fees and the quality of work like vastly varies. Again, I can't say I got much out of that either. I learned to not make desperate and rash decisions. Sometimes it's best to say no to a project, like for little money, and you, because it may stop you from saying yes to a project that may come later on. Because usually projects like that, in my experience, tend to overrun anyway. And like I learned that the hard way. I took on a project that it was not well paid. And during that, I got the opportunity to work on a bigger project that paid better, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't take it. So yeah, desperate decisions, not good. Another lesson learned, take. I also started doing some corporate work, which was a big chunk of my income for a couple of years. It pays well, and I was doing some game stuff on the side, but you know, that was like a big bulk of like me paying the bills. I was building up some savings, and I did some fun things like for charity and things. And I learned a lot about code of conduct of other industries, and I tried to use that in my career in games. That was basically to not be afraid to talk about money. It saves people time, and it's not anything that you should worry about talking. It doesn't all just save you time, but it also means that you can definitely get what you're worth. And also, crunch is never a solution. Something that took me a while to implement. You don't need to work weekends, and you don't need to reply to emails during lunch unless it's like, you know, two days from launch day. And to just take time for yourself. Crunch them, like it always comes from like bad project manager and blurred lines between work and personal life. It is hard to get, but try to work on that. So yeah, there is some elitism in games about corporate work, but it really teaches a lot, and it pays well, and a lot of studios do it. But I did want to focus on games. Having said all that, so I started looking at local events. I checked my Eventbrite from 2013, and I had 15 tickets. So I went to at least 15 events that year. I started meeting the local devs and learning from them, you know, how they worked, who they worked for, and get tips. At the beginning, I thought like it was a waste of time when I could be working on my portfolio, but you really need to understand like the importance of networking. It's great, for example, for the tips. I had a friend who kept asking me if I charged £300 a day, which to me it sounded like a crazy amount of money. But it kind of set a goal for myself. It's like, okay, when I'm a good artist, like with years of experience, I will charge that, and I do now. So yeah, like it was just like, you know, like trying to get information about what you do as well, and what others do, like the people that will end up paying you. And I go to many more and bigger conferences. I had a friend drag me to Develop in Brighton, that's like in the south of England. They had an extra ticket, and I thought, you know, why not? Develop is like a huge game developers conference, and everyone in the industry goes to it. There are talks about different subjects, and different events like that different studios put on during the week. The contacts and friendships that I made are still strong, and I'm the one dragging people to Brighton. It's the best opportunity to kind of meet all the big devs and discuss business. So like find your equivalent wherever you are in the world. Events are never wasted money, and I guarantee you, if you ask people, they will tell you cheap ways to do them. A lot of the times, like that there are ways that, you know, like other people will give you this information. Also, I realized when I put this together, this is not an advert for drinking, and it is also not a requirement to be in industry, like to drink. A lot of people don't drink. I realized like most of these pictures include alcohol, but you know, like it's not something. It just happened to be in the picture. Not a requirement, not an advert. But yeah, that was also the point of realization of how important contacts are for me. You never know whether people you're talking to right now, even your course mates, are going to be in a year or like 5. You know, I talked about that friend who now works on Riot Games, and we were working on like unpaid projects together at some point, trying to forget now. But yeah, this is how you'll get your jobs, learn about what's happening in the industry, and most importantly, find people to talk to when you need advice or any help. Everybody's super friendly. I had some friends and people I worked with before on some terrible studio projects. They introduced me to Feel Better Games. I remember after they moved to that studio, and I don't know if any of you know it, I was a big Fallen London fan, so it was perfect. I got to do a trailer for a game I was playing at the time, and it was well paid, and there were great people to work with. That was it was a real like introduction to what my life in games could be. So the thing some people don't understand is how small the industry is, and people talk. So you know, take advantage of it. Be the one they recommend of or what they recommend or think of when they're starting a project themselves. And you know, don't piss off people, and just be nice. Be a like nice person. Through contacts, like I said, my client base grew. And it wasn't about getting more clients, but it was about getting better ones or better paying ones. It was about getting the right clients, the people I wanted to work with. I made sure my rates reflected my experience and my skill level. If you're ever unsure, just ask. That's why I said don't be afraid to talk about money, and everybody's happy to help. And financial stability allowed me to take on small passion projects with friends in between bigger stuff. I also got to choose what projects to work on. I wasn't just taking anything And most importantly, it gave me the time to dedicate to improving my skills so I could get the project that I really wanted to do. I found a better balance between life and work, which means I was more productive and less stressed. And then I had to ask myself what I really wanted to do. My passion has always been character design, but was I strong enough? I mean, the short answer is no. Like at the time, it felt like a real like dream, and not something that was feasible. That's why I was like, I went through so many things, and it just kept coming back to that. So I really wanted to make that work. The issue with me doing a lot of personal work to improve was that it is easy to kind of stay in your comfort zone with no external force pushing you out of it. But I was eager to practice and improve and work towards where I wanted to be. And the first step to ever do that is reviewing where you are now. This brought to light the lack of general diversity as I was drawing. I was drawing what I found aesthetically appealing, which was very limited. The issue with very one-sided personal work, more so when you draw for a hobby or on a regular basis, is that you create a default for yourself, sort of like a base model in your head, instead of a broad reference of appealing shapes and colors and combinations and everything. Everything else you do is a deviation from that base model. And this not only stops you really expanding your character design skills, but it creates the illusion that there is a perfect version to be achieved, even on a personal level. I mean, at the time, I was struggling with body esteem issues, and it hurt to see that I didn't represent myself in my own work. Instead of using work to, like my art, to normalize what I believe to be negative traits, I look to fix them, you know, constantly, like in my art, constantly reaffirming the idea that they needed fixing. I realized that my idea of beauty was limited because I had internalized ideals that were kind of fed to me through the consumption of games and TV and comics and general like popular media and society. And I was passing on that bias through my art the way it was kind of passed on to me because I was doing the same, I was putting the same things out there. Challenging your own bias takes conscious effort. So for me, introducing diversity into my project started with taking my personal views out of the design process. You can do that in many ways, like creating mood boards, which forces you to start a process of research and making deliberate, thought-through decisions. If trying to provide a character description, rely on facts and always refer back to real-life reference and people. Decision makers, if you're ever in that position, decision makers need to examine the way that their bias affects the process, and briefs need to avoid subjective terms like I don't know, thin or curvy or, you know, manly, whatever that is, because these allow for a personal interpretation of the narrative. Or, you know, making sure your designs are as diverse as possible from the start and avoid developing that default that I talked about earlier. For artists, this means changing the way you do your personal work and studying. Just challenge yourself and stay out of your comfort zone. You will soon find that the comfort zone gets like broadened the more you stay out of it. So you're always like improving. And really just try to surround yourself with images of diverse people. It is as easy as looking around at the people that you work with or your family. I mean, right now it's probably just walls, but you know, look at your Zoom call. But you know, let healthy relationships and experiences create like a positive bias on characteristics and link traits to people you like. Diversifying your work is about a lot of things. It is obviously about race and body shapes, but it's also the way we show age, or it can be skin deep. Spots are not just for awkward teens. It is about gender diversity. You know, what if our character is trans or non-binary and they're transitioning, or, you know, if they decide that not to like alter the way they look. And it's about it is how we represent disabilities, or if we choose to ignore them, and even something as small as body hair. Just like expand what your idea of beauty or ideal is and what people should look like. In case you can't tell, character design is a subject I'm very passionate about. I could do like, I could just do a whole talk just on character design and like shapes and colors and everything and choosing the right, it doesn't matter. But yeah, choosing a direction for me, like character design, right, meant that I spent the last few years of my life studying this passion and how to improve not only as an artist, but maybe bring like a fraction of change to our industry and work towards doing the right thing for our audience. Because social responsibility is something I truly believe in. A year or two ago, games reached what was an estimated like 2.6 million people. I know it's more now during the pandemic. We get a lot of screen time in people's lives, and we are like part of popular media. It's something that a lot of people talk about right now, now that we're all stuck at home. So, you know, creating games with no understanding of the impact that we have or any personal accountability is no longer an option. You're the next generation of game devs, so you share in that responsibility and accountability. Sorry, you got to use these powers, like this platform, for good. Please and thank you. The end. No. So yeah, now my career doesn't just involve me getting paid, but I'm giving back to the industry, or at least trying to, through, like I said, my talks and me trying to push for diversity in character design, but also within the industry itself. And kind of this personal improvement is how I got good at what I do. You know, I work hard on my craft, and I made sure I'm heard as a woman in the industry. But working hard is nothing if you don't work smart too, as I discovered in my early years, or rather I didn't discover until later. That was the problem. Game dev is a team sport, and like I mentioned, it is a small industry. So I'll make sure to be places, you know, meeting people at events, or post like now, not events like, but events like these are great. Or posting work, even work in progress online, means people think of me when they need someone with my skill set. Networking is how I get jobs and get paid for being good at what I do. And notice how I said good at what I do and not just good, because something I had to learn was to try to not be good at everything, especially you like still young artists. So let me tell you, there's just not enough time during the day to kind of get good at everything, and you're only causing yourself stress and making yourself think you aren't good enough. You know, just find your passion and know your strengths and your weaknesses. By all means, work on both. But don't try, you know, to achieve perfection in everything, because that's not going to happen. I'm sorry. Like I know I can't paint like a pretty, like, beautiful landscape, and I don't find that fun, and that's why I can't, because I'm not dedicated the time. It's not where my passion lies. But I also know, you know, that I'm a very fast designer, or like I can do a concept like for something within like an hour or two, and you know, like I can draw like a kick-ass pose like very dynamic. So, you know, like play to your strengths and your passions, like especially your passions. So for the last few years, character design is my focus because it is my passion. The latest project, like to take it back to my career and what I do. The latest project I was involved in that is out was Battletoads. I joined a bit further in the process and went from character designer to lead character designer. That was through me just having a really good like mental link with the creative director. You know, my briefs were very short and thingy, but like I was passionate about what I was doing. I really like the game, so you know, like I worked hard to make it work with what I did, like to improve it with my work. Yeah, so like I said, I know my strengths and like I use my experience working in games, but also like my passion for this game. It was a very fun experience. Such a stupid game, all of it. And working with Delilah Studios was a really fun time. I learned a lot, and my skills definitely grew. I was definitely out of my comfort zone for a lot of that, but it was a wild ride because of it. Oh, that's my dog Nugget. He's there because I can't tell you what I'm working on now. But I can tell you I'm now working as an art director for the last few months, since maybe September. I don't remember. I'm really enjoying being a noob again, and I've learned a lot. It is very different being an art director. There's a lot about managing people, which is one of my biggest challenges, like that I've faced so far, and the biggest learning curve is managing people and working with others of different experience levels. I've learned that nothing is common sense, and nothing should be, no knowledge should be assumed, because it could be assumed for you, but it doesn't mean everybody else knows what you know. Also, overcoming imposter syndrome. That was another challenge, which I'm sure like all artists have at all stages of their life. But it's something, you know, manageable. Just, you know, believe in yourself. But I found out that, you know, like my experience matters. It's about finding again that those strengths to overcome that imposter syndrome. I work with very talented artists. They can paint those landscapes that I can't, and they do. They paint great environments, and I know I can't do that. So imposter syndrome was going nuts. You know, thinking, who am I to tell these people how to do their job? But I learned to trust my instincts because I've developed them working in this field for over a decade. You know, experience cannot just be like ignored. It is a lot. You learn a lot with everything you do and every project. And my instinct kind of says that I'm maybe running late. No, but it's fine. Maybe the time is over soon. So I hope hearing about my journey and my mistakes. It's not just one. That means you kind of learn without making the same mistakes that I have made. Please value yourself. Unless you get very lucky, it takes time and it takes a lot of hard work. But just be confident and establish genuine relationships within the field. These people will be your friends for years and years. Follow the steps of others who got where you want to get, and work on your craft and yourself. Thank you so much for listening. Oh, my instincts were wrong. I'm not over the time, but this is great because it means there is time for questions. And I will try and, no, I'm sharing my screen. I'll maybe stop sharing. And let's do questions. I hope this helped.
Thank you so much, Lucy. We have a few questions here, and somebody raised their hand also. So let's start with the question first. And we have Andrea, which is asking if it was difficult for you to adapt to different styles of drawing for each video game. How
Hmm.
how was that process for you?
That's an interesting question, and I get asked it a lot. Um, some people have a very strong like direction of style, but I always liked experimenting. Um, so every time I got something different, I just made sure to give myself time to adapt to the style. Like Battletoads was a style that I had never done before, but I got pretty quickly because of that like studying my personal work, just experimenting with different styles. So sometimes it takes a little bit, but it's part of the challenge for me. It's part of the fun challenge, the fun part of the challenge for me. I've never found it super difficult because I made sure to never accept things that I know that are way out of like what I can do, like like realistic painted, like whatever humans or like very like realistic, realistic looking, like creature design, things like that. Yeah, I hope this helps. I hope this answers the question.
And we have Ashanti. She's asking, how do you know what's worth to include in your portfolio and how often should it be updated?
Okay. Yeah, this is great. So you don't. Chances are you don't know. Even I sometimes need somebody else to look on my portfolio, unless you have been in the position of hiring people, which I am in now. It's very hard to know what you should be including in your portfolio. It really depends on what you want to do. If you want to do character design like what I do, you need to think like, what is the job that I want to get? As a character designer, a lot of the job is the process. It's not the final image. So having like, I see a lot of character design portfolios which is just like images of like characters, but that's not what the job is. That's the job of an illustrator, and you need to show your process. So I would say the best thing to do is actually find somebody, like I said before, like who is where you want to be, and just ask for a portfolio review. So many people do them, and people have so much free time during this pandemic, and everyone's so happy to help. As for how often to update, um, I don't update. You'll find that at the beginning, it'll be easier to update, but the more you work in the industry, you'll find that you can't update because everything is under NDAs and you can't talk about the games. But I would say, as often as when you feel like your skill, like it's not represented anymore in your portfolio, just go back and make sure it is.
Okay, great. We have another question here. Let's go with Ruby is asking if you have a favorite art style.
Oh, that's so interesting. So to work in or to look at? To work
That's
in, uh, I like very cartoony stuff and exaggerated stuff. But it depends from time to time. At the moment I'm just really enjoying very like cartoony, exaggerated. What I like to look at, um, I've been playing Hades a lot, and like
oh.
the art style is just gorgeous. But I don't have the patience to do anything like that.
Great. And we have here, I think this is a good one. Somebody is asking, it doesn't have a name here, anonymous, but it's, what do you mean when you talk about imposter syndrome? I mean, maybe if you can elaborate as an artist.
Yeah, of course. So I only realized recently that's not a term that's maybe used like very like it's not a well-known term. Um, so imposter syndrome is feeling like you're not good enough and people are gonna find out and call you out. So like it's that feeling is like I should be better. I got this job, but what if I can't do it? Which is crazy because like the people hired you, so they would have checked that you can do the job. But that is imposter syndrome, just like constantly thinking like you're like people will find out that you're not good enough. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I think that's very interesting for a lot of students that are just starting, that they feel maybe, oh, my word's not good enough and things like that. No, you have to be more confident. That's great.
Yeah. We've got an artist in the team now, and like her style is like she gets the style. Like she basically helped develop the style, and she thinks she doesn't do the style well. And I'm like, a lot of the stuff we're basing on what you've shown us. So it's yeah, you need to kind of be more confident. It's an artist thing, but you know, just know what you're good at, like I was saying.
Okay. And we have Angela, and she's asking, as an art director, what do you do when you encounter someone who is difficult to work with?
Oh,
Interesting.
that is interesting. So if it's another person, like another lead, so it's another person at my level, we just argue it out. You know, you just talk and you understand where like the other person is coming from. You know, you have to be an adult about it. When it's like an artist, like that somebody underneath, there's a different like power dynamic, so you can't do that because that's unfair to the other person. Um, so what I do is again like sit down and have an honest chat about what is difficult. Just explain, just be like, look, this is not working. Is there something wrong? Do you feel like it's working? And usually an honest conversation is the best way for everybody to get what they want and also to understand the other person's perspective. You're muted.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. So yeah, I think this is very important also. When you're a student and working as a team, it's also like good that you develop those skills that, dialogue, and
Yeah.
so you can use it when you are as a professional.
Yeah.
Great. And we have Gustavo, and he's asking us if you have any tips for concept art and lineless art.
Mm. So I'll start with the first one. For concept art, what it's concept art is very broad. What you need to do for concept art is to work quickly, usually in game development. Like you're gonna have short things, you'll be like, do me like 10 concepts for this one thing in one day. Because it's about like not being precious with your work, just like idea done, like sketch, like very quick, and then you slowly develop it. To get better at concept art, I would say study everything around your subject. So for me, with characters, I look at fashion. I look at like makeup. I look at like animals. Like I study animals. So not just getting good at this one thing. It's about like expanding your knowledge and your reference. So that's what I would say for concept art. Look at different eras, like like how did buildings, if you like doing buildings, look like in different at different places of the world and at different times, or like for whatever it is, just like learn your subject from different perspectives, not just games. For lineless art, I like my lines. I really enjoy lines, and I think if you like lines, why you like don't try to not line your art. When I make lineless art, what I do is I just end up with like I like to start with a very clear sketch, um, because then I can just create the block shapes and then build on those block shapes.
Great. Thank you so much. And we have another question. Not sure if I understand. Eduardo is asking us like, which places such as CTN, I'm not sure what CTN, do you think
Network?
Cartoon Network, I guess, yes. Do you think were the best places for networking?
Oh, maybe not Cartoon Network, CTN.
Yeah, maybe it was GDC, maybe got confused. But what do you think are like, for your experience in the industry that you go to different events, are the best places for networking, or what did you suggest?
So I would say every event is very different. Local events, you're going to get a lot of, especially at the beginning of your career. And you'll also be surprised at what people in your area are working on. So for Battletoads, we worked with Rare. And it turns out some people here, like in the same town I'm in, worked with Rare on Sea of Thieves. And it's just very interesting. And it's the great thing about local events is they're cheap and they're close to home. You can go to many of them. My favorite, like really big events are great, but know that everybody's super busy. So networking is a bit of a hit and miss. So the best events I would say are like medium-sized events. Maybe not your GDCs, but like maybe it's like your countries or like your areas, you know, like big event. Because then people tend to be a bit less pressured to book meetings. And that means they have free time to chat to, you know, like new people. So yeah, I would say find those medium-sized events, not the huge like GDCs and whatever's. And those are great. Or like sometimes, you know, the consumer events. I don't know if you have any, like we have like EGX, for example, or like Gamescom, things like that.
Okay.
They usually have game developer events within them. So find those. Those are great too.
Great. And we have Andrea here also asking, I think we're good on time. Yes, we're good on time. If you have any recommendation as for software to illustrate, what software would you recommend?
So I use Photoshop. The industry standard, I would say, is Photoshop, but we all know, like I had it crash once today. So I don't know if I would, I would say that like people use it, like we all use it. It's a love-hate relationship. I use Procreate, like if you have like an iPad thing, but honestly, it doesn't matter. Like if you're good at what you do, it doesn't matter what you do it in, because it's your skill. It's not your skill in software. Because you're not like a programmer, you don't need to know a certain language. The skills are the same no matter what software you use. So if you find free ones, they're just as good as other ones, like paid ones.
Thank you. And we have a question from Ale, and also raising her hand, and she's asking, how do you realize about your strengths and weaknesses? If there's a way that you can do that to better improve.
That's a bit hard. You need to go look at your work, and I mean, it's hard to say, like just see what is working and what isn't working. Just break it down. And usually what you'll find is your strengths are the things you spend the most time on, or like you have the most fun doing. And your weaknesses are things you tend to avoid. That's usually a good way of knowing, because it's all about time. Strengths is where you put your time in because you practice. So usually those are things that you'll be better at. Or like I studied animation, so that's why I can do really dynamic stuff, because I learned that other skill that kind of transferred. But yeah, it's hard. Just like look at your work, or like show someone else and be like, can you give me some feedback on what I've done?
Here we go. And just in case my dog starts barking, sorry for that.
That's fine.
We have a Beto, which it's interesting two questions. How much communication will you typically have with the color designers? And that's one. And he also says, let me read it here. Also, I feel scared about approaching line artists and offering to do collaborations as a way of getting experience. Do you have any tips?
I'm not sure what color designers are. I guess like people who take my designs and color them. That's usually me. I like to be a part of that, like to do the whole process. But I think if you're not that person, you need to be clear about the intent of your art and just be like, this is what this should be, and provide reference. Was the approaching line artists and to do collaborations? Oh, I mean, being scared of approaching people. Everybody's like, whether it's networking events or online, you know, like everybody's scared to approach others. So by approaching them, you're kind of doing them a favor. I'm the kind of person at events who goes up to people and just bothers them. And I'm like, hey, I'm here to talk now. And usually they're very happy. And I found that online as well. Everybody's scared to make that first step. So you're really like, they should be grateful to you for doing that. And they will be if you do it. So please approach people.
Yes. The worst questions is the ones that you don't ask.
Exactly.
And we have two more questions, and I think that we will just make it up time. We have
sorry,
Jose
I know it's lunchtime for you soon, right?
Yes, here it's gonna be two, but we're fine here. We're hungry for knowledge.
Oh, I'm not in a hurry. I'm fine to say.
Great. Well, we have a question from Jose Carlos. He's thanking you for the advice. He's really like happy with everything, and he wants to know, how do you drive the project deadlines? If you have any tips for building the goals to do on a project as an artist.
Deadlines. So I'm terrible with that stuff. I'm really lucky. I work with an art manager, and he tends to handle a lot of the deadlines. I'm like, we can do this. We've got this. And he's like, no, we don't got this. And 2 days later, I'm like, no, we don't got this. You're right. Good thing you put that into the schedule. So what I would say is, however long you think something's going to take, like double it. Like if you think it's going to take me 2 days, just put a week. Because that saves you like from ending up with crunch time and, you know, like rushing and stressing. And the best thing that can, I guess the worst thing that can happen is that you'll use up the whole time. But the best thing is that you'll end up with a lot more free time. So yeah, just try to be really realistic, and if anything, pessimistic with your deadlines. For building the goals to do, I would say it's great to like have your project or your game or whatever, like have your core. This is what my game needs to be. You know, these are your must-haves. This is what the game is like, and it should be like a couple of sentences. And you should be, everything else should be like, is it a must? Does it lead us to this final thing, or can it wait later? So you build a priority list with like your must-haves and then like nice-to-haves. But you'll end up, you'll find there's always sacrifices that need to be made. So it's best to sacrifice things that are nice to have and just end up with a good core project, whatever it is. You're muted again.
Sorry, just
fine.
I don't want to interrupt with the dog here. Thank you for that. I think it's a very good answer. We have Askor. He's asking us, when you have a mental block, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, that's very relevant, because I have had the worst art blocks since the whole pandemic started. And I think a lot of us have. it's hard to get motivation and inspiration outside, well, there's no outside, like in your four walls. So give it time. I always make sure to give myself time and don't put pressure, which is great for like personal work. It doesn't matter if you don't make art for like a month or two. I know I should care, but like I'd rather, make sure like what I create is good enough. And then when I start up again, I kind of like go back to basics and things I know, and then slowly like build myself up. It's usually quite quick. I look at a lot of inspiration stuff. Like I follow a lot of artists, like Pinterest boards, just with like stuff that inspire me. When it comes to work, it is not as easy. I understand. I can't say I tend to get block often when it comes to work, but being like working as an art director now, sometimes switching from art director to character designer, because I usually have like 2 hours where I put myself in a do not disturb when I'm lucky, and I get to design, but like it's very hard to switch. So I just make sure to leave it. Like I do something and I leave it, and like I come back the next day and like look at it with fresh eyes. You'll be surprised what a set of fresh eyes will do. So yeah, just like time is very important when it comes to like block.
I unmute myself. Thank you. Just to make sure. Well, just right on time, but if you don't mind, I have one question, because as a Battletoads fan that I play the original ones, when you approach this project, how was your research? How much did you go back to the originals, and do you play them all, because they're really hard? And can you tell us a little bit about that for working on this project?
Yeah, of course. So I didn't even know about Battletoads when I was approached. AJ, who runs Delilah, who they developed the game, they were looking for a designer, like a common friend, put us in touch. I wasn't even sure if I could do it. When he told me, I kind of looked into it and I was like, oh my God, that looks cool. And I tried playing it and I was really bad. And I was playing the same like 5 minutes because that's all I could play. So I like did my research by watching a lot of like playthroughs.
Yes.
And like looked into the new references. So a lot of my research was like cheating and not actually playing the game. And when I did, because I worked on the game for some time, and I was remote, and I hadn't played the game, so I was drawing these characters, and I was like, yeah, and I've seen them in game, like as they were showing like clips of what was happening, but I had not played the game, so I went down to visit Delilah, and I got to play it, and then I was surprised at how much worse I was than the original game. I was so lucky that the rest of the team had played it so much that they would like carry me. That the the hover
Yes.
level.
That's hard.
How do people do it? I watch like people play it, and it's great that people love it and that they play it. And there's so many people who have played it. I'm like, how? I don't understand. It's so long. It's so hard.
We used to like suffering, so it was painful, but
Yeah.
the original and then the Super NES games. But great. So there's all these resources that you have, and also working with the team that they play a little bit more or were a little bit better.
Yeah, because they were in the studio, so they played like in Delilah they do a lot of like everybody plays the game, so they know what you're creating. It's the best way to kind of like know what the game needs when you're creating whatever it is you're creating. So they were good, or way better than me. I was good for like some of the fighting bits, but no matter who I tried, like Pimple thingy, like I was a good like a big Pimple fan. To play with, but I was just not good. I would get lost. It was just terrible. Terrible.
Oh my God. Well, the game came out great. The art style is just like really pops out. So congratulations. That was an amazing game. And as a fan also, it was,
Thank
I was really looking forward to it. And I play with my kids and they love the art style. It's just like playing a cartoon.
Oh, that's so good. That's so great. I especially love it when like children like the game. I know I shouldn't, but somebody from the studio from Talala, because I designed the like one of the characters design was like Holiday, which was like the one with the two things
Mhm.
of the lights.
Yes.
And like the kid was a big fan, so they asked me to like draw it for them. So that I thought that was really cute. Just because like kids don't care, they just tell you things. If something's bad, they will tell you. So
Yes.
it's always great to hear.
Amazing. Yeah. My kids love it and we're still playing it actually from time to time. But I like to like try to get back to the playing in one life, trying not to
Oh my gosh.
like the old way, but I'm too old for that now. Well, I well, it's been a great talk, and I don't want to take much of your time. And I think everyone was, for what I see in the comments and the questions, that were really interesting, and they get a lot of tips and a lot from your experience. So thank you so much for like being able to share with us, and also like guys, we're gonna put all the links for the LinkedIn and Instagram, all the Lucy's contacts. So if you want to reach out to her, they will be available there. And if you have any questions, not for now, but you can like get in touch also. We're gonna put everything available there. And well, nothing much to say, but thank you so much. Have a good night because it's 7 p.m. over there in
It's
England.
8 now.
8 now. Oh yeah, that's
Yes.
right. It's 8 because you just finished. Thank you so
Oh,
much, and everyone for joining us. Thank you so much. We will reach 101 participants, which is great for the time. It was really good. And well, we're hoping we'll see you sometime soon, and looking forward to hearing about your new projects.
oh yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hopefully I can tell you about it soon. Hopefully. Maybe I'll come back and tell you about it.
Yes, we'll definitely do a follow-up. Thank
Yes.
you so much. And guys, everyone, thank you. And Lucy, it was great meeting you and looking forward for your new projects. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.